Chapter 71. Xian'er's Speculation. Xian'er brushed her hair aside as she pondered what to discuss with Yiling. After some thought, she finally asked her first question. By the way, let's talk about your spirit pet. How did it suddenly become so strong? And it doesn't look like a zombie, does it? During her encounter with Yiling at Burial Mound, Xian'er had been curious about Shuiyu's true nature. It was completely different from the rumors about zombies. In Xian'er's mind, zombies were typically horrifying creatures with fangs and claws. But Shuiyu seemed far from terrifying. Although it used claws and revealed fangs during battle, that didn't necessarily mean it was a zombie. Yiling wasn't surprised by Xian'er's question. Anyone seeing Shuiyu for the first time would likely wonder what kind of spirit pet it was, especially since Xian'er knew that Yiling's pet was supposed to be a zombie. Shuiyu is a zombie, but different from ordinary ones. She's special, Yiling explained, then stopped, not wanting to say more. Some things were better left unsaid. Shuiyu was indeed a zombie, and without the system, Yiling wouldn't have known how to help her evolve. He didn't want to tell anyone about this, as the sudden evolution of a supposedly unevolvable zombie could potentially alarm the entire Federation. While they might not trouble Yiling directly, his life would become less peaceful. So, regarding Shuiyu being a different kind of zombie, Yiling attributed it to her being unlike ordinary zombies. In the Federation, there is always a chance for magical beasts or spirit pets to undergo mutations, becoming unique within their species. These special beings were rare, but most mutations made them more powerful. People in the Federation generally envied those with mutated spirit pets. They were rare and had great potential. Unfortunately, these mutations were unable to be produced or artificially created. A mutated zombie? Xian'er thought, surprised. If Shuiyu was a mutated spirit pet, as Yiling claimed, his future strength was guaranteed. With sufficient time, he would undoubtedly become a powerful figure, perhaps even surpassing Xian'er's father. Her father was only in the 6th Order, which was impressive in Radiant City but insignificant in the broader Federation. This was unavoidable, as remote areas had fewer resources. With a hint of envy in her eyes, Xian'er realized she had underestimated Yiling. She hadn't expected him to have a mutated spirit pet. It seems I've underestimated him, she thought, looking at his resolute face. Yiling didn't elaborate further, and Xian'er didn't press the issue. Everyone had their secrets, and she wasn't the type to pry. Being too intrigued could easily make one dislike, and she didn't want Yiling to dislike her, given her current positive feelings towards him. After answering her question, an awkward silence fell. Suddenly, Xian'er's bright eyes lit up as she thought of another question. Yiling, with your abilities, entering a top-tier Spirit Master Academy shouldn't be a problem. Have you thought about which academy you'd like to choose? She was curious about which top-tier academy Yiling would select. His strength was more than enough, even exceeding the expectations of the academy representatives. Xian'er could already imagine that the top-tier academies wouldn't want to let go of such a talented student. Yiling had shown even more strength, effortlessly breaking level 2 spirit chains, which she was unaware of. This alone would make the academies fight over him. As long as Yiling performed regularly in the 2nd stage of the examination, the final result was all but certain. Chapter 72. Waiting for the best offer. Xian'er, on the other hand, had already chosen the academy to attend. The representative of the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy, one of the 4 top-tier Spirit Master Academies, had come for her this time. Her elder from the main family in the Holy City, Ling, had personally come to recruit her in Radiant City. In other words, Xian'er had no choice in the matter. As long as she passed the assessment, she would inevitably enter the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy. This was a certainty that had long been decided. Now she was curious about which Spirit Master Academy Yiling would choose. If he chose the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy, it meant that they could continue being classmates, and she could keep uncovering Yiling's secrets. Having been saved by Yiling this time, Xian'er couldn't help but develop a deep impression of him. She was hopeful that Yiling would join the same Spirit Master Academy as her. Of course, this ultimately depended on Yiling's own decision. You're still asking me? What about you? Which Spirit Master Academy do you want to join? With your abilities, none of the 4 top-tier Spirit Master Academies would miss the chance to recruit you. Yiling didn't immediately answer Xian'er's question, but instead asked about her choice. Xian'er pouted when she heard Yiling return the question to her. However, she still answered honestly. Unless something unexpected happens, I'll be heading to the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy, because I have no other option. If given a choice, Xian'er would have preferred to go to the Vermilion Bird Spirit Master Academy. The Vermilion Bird Spirit Master Academy had always been a stronghold for female spirit masters. Most of the renowned spirit masters came from this academy. Obviously, the Vermilion Bird Spirit Master Academy was particularly popular among female students. Hearing that she had no choice, Yiling couldn't help but feel curious. After all, he didn't know about the relationship between Xian'er and Hualing. Why do you say you have no choice? With your abilities, no Spirit Master Academy would reject you. If you don't have a choice, what about the other students? Xian'er shook her head slightly at these words. It's not what you think. The reason I cannot choose is that this time, the representative from the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy is from the Hua family in Holy City. In other words, they came specifically for me. They contacted my father in advance to arrange for me to join the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy. That's why I say I don't have a choice. Although she couldn't choose, the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy was still one of the top-tier Spirit Master Academies with strong capabilities. Entering the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy wouldn't put Xian'er at a disadvantage. With Hualing there, she might even receive special treatment. After all, with Hualing as a teacher and the support of the Hua family in the Holy City, Xian'er was bound to receive good treatment. Even though Xian'er was only from a branch of the Hua family, she was still a member of the family. In the future, entering the main family was just a matter of time. Thinking of this, Xian'er shook her head, pushing away the strange thoughts in her mind. The future was too far away to be something she should worry about now. Then, Xian'er turned her gaze back to Yiling and asked again, "What about you? You still haven't said which Spirit Master Academy you'll choose." Her tone carried a hint of expectation. She was still hoping that Yiling would choose to join the Black Tortoise Spirit Master Academy with her. When it came to him, various top-tier Spirit Master Academies information flashed through Yiling's mind. In terms of strength, there wasn't much difference between the top-tier Spirit Master Academies. Or rather, they were all on par with each other. Each academy's resources for students were also very similar, almost uniform. If the resources were about equal, then Yiling had to consider which academy would give him the best opportunities to encounter monsters. The Holy City wasn't like the remote Radiant City, where the city was filled with large armies. Not just armies, but also many powerful spirit masters resided in the Holy City. In the vast area around the city, monsters had been thoroughly cleared out. If Yiling wanted to grow stronger by hunting monsters, relying solely on wild monsters wouldn't work. He would need to enter the secret realms. Typically, the number of times a student could enter the secret realms was limited, with some students possibly only getting one chance per year. Unless they got extra rewards, their chances of entering the secret realms were limited. If Yiling wanted to become stronger, he would need to secure more opportunities to enter the secret realms. At the moment, Yiling hadn't decided which Spirit Master Academy he would join. He was still waiting for the best offer. In the second phase of the assessment, Yiling planned to give his all to claim first place. The higher his ranking and the stronger he appeared, the more bargaining power he would have. If anyone wanted to recruit him, they would need to offer better terms. At that time, Yiling could choose the Spirit Master Academy that would benefit him the most. But that was something for later. For now, Yiling hadn't made up his mind. However, when responding to Xian'er's question, Yiling certainly wouldn't say any of this. Chapter 73. Do you think the Spirit Master Academy is a marriage agency? Smiling slightly, Yiling shook his head and replied, "I haven't decided yet, but if a Spirit Master Academy is willing to introduce me to some beautiful women, I might join. Of course, if it's the Vermilion Bird Academy, that would be even better. I heard it's all female students there, so I imagine there must be plenty of beauties." That was a joke, but Xian'er took it seriously. As soon as she heard his answer, Xian'er's expression froze. She never expected Yiling to respond to her question like that. That was outrageous. Right in front of him, a school beauty, he was thinking about having the Spirit Master Academy introduce him to other beauties and even dreaming of entering the Vermilion Bird Academy, which was off-limits to men. Wasn't this a blatant disregard for her? Xian'er was very confident in her looks and figure. Even in the Holy City, she didn't believe she was any less attractive than anyone else. A young woman cares deeply about her beauty and physique, after all. Scumbag. Xian'er glared at Ling and muttered under her breath. Ling was stunned when he heard the word. What? How does what I said have anything to do with you? Why do I feel like I am being accused of being a heartless player? This is absurd. What kind of relationship do I have with you? How am I suddenly a scumbag? Miss Hua, I don't recall us having any kind of relationship. How did I become a scumbag? Give me a reason. Feeling unjustly accused, Ling wanted to figure out what was going on. He couldn't just be insulted without understanding why. Xian'er wasn't about to back down. She turned around and looked directly at Ling, biting her lip before her clear, bell-like voice rang out. And you say you're not a scumbag? Joining the Spirit Master Academy for such a reason. Do you think these academies are marriage agencies? And the Vermilion Bird Academy? Don't you know that they never admit male students? You're dreaming if you think you can join them. After saying that, Xian'er snorted and turned her head away from Ling. She was unaware that Ling was a potential recruit for the Vermilion Bird Academy. If she found out, she would be shocked. She rambled on, leaving Ling a bit dumbfounded. After hearing her out, Ling couldn't help but feel a hint of jealousy in the air. He glanced at Xian'er in surprise and thought to himself, could this little girl have feelings for me? We've barely met. How is that possible? It wasn't entirely unreasonable for Xian'er to react this way. After all, Ling had saved her at a critical moment, not only ensuring her survival in the secret realm, but also her qualification to become a spirit master. Otherwise, she would have lost her family's support. Her fate wouldn't have been much better. If she were lucky, she might marry a powerful spirit master. If not, she might not even be considered worthy of being a concubine. Feeling a bit sulky, Xian'er leaned against a tree and closed her eyes to rest. She was exhausted, both physically and mentally, from the prolonged battle with the Shadow Wolf and the relentless pursuit. Now that they had stopped, fatigue overwhelmed her, and she soon fell asleep. Hey, Miss Hua. Xian'er. After calling out to her twice without any response, Ling only heard the sound of steady breathing. He couldn't help but feel a bit exasperated. Wow, she treats me like a bodyguard, falling asleep so openly right in front of me. And she's not even worried about me taking advantage of the situation. Xian'er had dozed off, but Ling dared not go into a deep sleep. Even though the surrounding magical creatures had been dealt with, there was always the chance that some had escaped, and there were still dangers in the sky. He had to stay alert. Fortunately, as his level increased, Ling's endurance improved. Powerful spirit masters could go days without sleep. While Ling wasn't yet at that level, he could go 2 or 3 days without rest. Meditation was a quick way for spirit masters to replenish their spiritual energy. Relying solely on the body's natural recovery was very slow. During today's battle, Ling used several spirit techniques, consuming a lot of energy. That was the perfect time to meditate and recover. As for Shuiyu, it stood quietly beside Ling like a loyal guardian, as still as a statue. Chapter 74. How embarrassing. As night fell in this dangerous and terrifying secret realm, students were continuously being eliminated. Some lacked the necessary strength, while others were simply unfortunate. All kinds of students met their fate. Time flew by quickly in the secret realm. As the darkness of night gradually dispersed, light once again covered the area. It was now the 3rd day. If they could wait until noon, they would pass the first test. Morning dew clung to the leaves of the towering trees and the plants in the base area. The atmosphere was exceptionally quiet and a bit chilly. Ling, who had been in a meditative state, opened his eyes and was about to stand up when he felt a heavy weight on his thighs. Looking down, he discovered Xian'er sleeping with her head on his lap. If he looked closely, he could even see a trace of drool at the corner of her mouth. His mouth twitched. Ling hadn't expected Xian'er to use him as a pillow while he was meditating. Since he hadn't sensed any hostility, he hadn't awakened from his meditative state. As for Shuiyu, Ling had instructed it before meditating to ignore anything that didn't pose a threat. Ling gently pushed Xian'er, trying to wake her up. She reluctantly turned over, even wrapping her arms around him. This unexpected action left Ling bewildered. She was carefree, treating him like she knew him well. Since she had initiated this, he decided not to be polite. A mischievous smile appeared on Ling's face as he extended his right hand. He placed it on Xian'er's face and pinched it lightly. Feeling a bit uncomfortable, Xian'er frowned slightly. She slowly woke up, and when she opened her sleepy eyes, she saw Yiling's face close to hers. Huh. Her drowsiness instantly vanished. She sat up hurriedly, feeling confused. Seeing Yiling's hand, she panicked and leaned back. You didn't do anything to me, did you? She asked angrily, covering her chest with her hands. She had no idea why she had woken up lying on Yiling's lap. Any ordinary woman would feel like she had been taken advantage of in this situation. Yiling, the actual victim, helplessly spread his hands. He then pointed to the small puddle of saliva on his pants and explained resignedly, "Look at my pants. Don't you understand what happened? Don't worry, I didn't take advantage of you. You still have my 105,000 Federation points. Why would I try anything at a time like this? So don't overthink it. I'm not particularly interested in you right now." After seeing the saliva on Yiling's pants, Xian'er understood. She had fallen asleep on Yiling's lap on her own and even drooled while sleeping. She looked down at her clothes and saw they were intact, which made her feel a bit relieved. Then, thinking about how she must have looked while drooling in her sleep, Xian'er's face turned bright red. She never imagined she would sleep on Yiling's lap and drool. How embarrassing! Her reputation was utterly destroyed. However, when Xian'er heard the latter part of Yiling's words, she became furious. Her face, originally red from embarrassment, now alternated between pale and flushed with anger. What did he mean by not taking advantage of her? What did he mean by not being interested in her? All he cared about were those Federation points. Did he think she lacked money? What a dense man. Xian'er cursed Yiling repeatedly in her heart. Here she was, beautiful woman sleeping on his lap, and he didn't even know how to appreciate it. All he could think about were Federation points. If that wasn't the definition of a dense man, what was it? She glared at Yiling and said through gritted teeth, "You. Fine. Very well. I'll remember this, Yiling." If looks could kill, Xian'er would have killed Yiling countless times by now. Unfortunately, while some rare spirit pets or magical beasts specializing in mental attacks might be able to kill with a look, Xian'er couldn't. Hearing this, Yiling flashed his bright white teeth and smiled. "Of course, I'm very well. I'm healthy and have a good appetite." Xian'er was so angry she was speechless. She didn't know how to retort to Yiling anymore. Humph. She snorted coldly and turned her head away, not wanting to look at Yiling's annoying face anymore. Chapter 75. Passing the Test. "All right, it's getting late. Let's get up, have something to eat, and then I'll start hunting," Yiling said as he stood up from the ground, brushing the dust off his clothes. He began preparing breakfast. The breakfast consisted of meat from the previously encountered magical beasts. Due to limited ingredients, they had to make do with what was available. After Yiling finished preparing everything, he noticed that Xian'er was still sitting there, seemingly still angry with him. Sighing softly, Yiling approached Xian'er and offered her some food. "Come on, Miss Hua, hurry up. I'm busy and need to return to work after eating." Was the only response he got, a cold snort. Xian'er didn't even look at the food in Yiling's hand, still upset about what had happened earlier. Slowly crouching down, Yiling grabbed Xian'er's hand and placed the food in it, instructing her, "Eat quickly. If I finish eating and you still haven't, don't blame me for leaving you here." With that, Yiling turned and went back to eat his breakfast. Xian'er, meanwhile, was salivating due to the scent of the food she was holding. Growl. Her stomach suddenly rebelled just as she was about to protest that she didn't need to eat. Looking back, she knew she had been holding out until now, because she had not eaten since last night. It was natural to be hungry, and if she didn't eat, she might struggle to keep up with Yiling when he left. Since Yiling had already said they would be leaving soon, she needed to fill her stomach or risk falling behind. Realizing this, Xian'er looked back at Yiling fiercely and muttered under her breath, "Heartless jerk. Doesn't even know how to comfort a girl." Although she was unhappy, Xian'er wouldn't neglect her stomach. She ate the food in large bites, and despite the lack of seasoning, it tasted delicious due to her extreme hunger. Yiling, who was eating his breakfast, noticed Xian'er begin to eat and allowed a small smile to form on his lips. Soon, breakfast time was over. Yiling sprang into action, setting out with Xian'er in tow. Now they only had half a day left. During this time, Yiling wanted to defeat as many magical beasts as possible, gaining as much experience and growth as he could. This would allow Shuiyu to complete the next stage of its plan sooner. Once it evolved again, Shuiyu's strength would undoubtedly increase. It might even unlock more powerful skills or talents. Yiling, wouldn't it have been better to stay where we were earlier? Why are we deliberately putting ourselves at risk by coming out here? Was Xian'er following behind? Wasn't quite sure what Yiling was up to, but she could tell he was searching for something. It wasn't until later that Xian'er realized what Yiling was looking for. It turned out he was hunting for magical beasts. When he found one or a group of them, Yiling would take them down. This secret realm, which initially seemed terrifying, now felt like a sightseeing tour to Xian'er. They walked here and there, observing different areas, and she didn't even need to lift a finger. Shuyu, Yiling's spirit companion, easily defeated every magical beast they came across. Xian'er had not had a chance to see Shueyu's actual appearance because of the previous night's darkness. It wasn't until today that she saw Shueyu's looks were no less impressive than hers, and its figure might even be slightly better. If she hadn't known Shueyu was a spirit pet, Xian'er might have mistaken it for a person. Although she didn't want to admit it, Xian'er was actually jealous. If others knew that Xian'er was jealous of a spirit pet, they'd probably laugh themselves silly. Damn it, what a pervert. Even his spirit pet is this good-looking. That was Xian'er's most honest thought when she saw Shueyu's delicate features and tall figure. Her looks and figure weren't bad either, but Yiling wasn't even trying to pursue her, a great beauty. Didn't that imply she lacked charm? Thinking about this made Xian'er very angry. Time flew by, and soon, whole morning had passed. Compared to the fierce magical beasts at night, most of the ones encountered during the day were much weaker. Throughout the entire morning, they hadn't even encountered a magical beast above level 7 of the First Order. But every little bit counts. Yiling didn't let a single magical beast they encountered escape. He followed a very practiced routine. Shueyu would take them down, and then Yiling would break down the materials. Their teamwork was perfect. Congratulations to candidate Yiling for successfully passing the first stage of the test. Congratulations to candidate Xian'er for successfully passing the first stage of the test. As noon approached, the wristbands on both of their wrists finally delivered the notification. This announcement indicated the end of the test's first stage. Chapter 76. End of the first stage, return. Aside from Yiling and Xian'er, but all the other students still surviving in the secret realm also received the notification. Finally, the assessment is over. Now we have the second stage tomorrow, Xian'er said lazily, stretching after learning she had passed the first stage. Yiling, thank you for this. Without you, I might not have passed this assessment. Although she disliked Yiling's blunt behavior, Xian'er still expressed gratitude for saving her. Hearing this, Yiling shook his head slightly. No need to thank me. I helped you only for the Federation points. I understand the principle of providing service for payment. Since Xian'er had made a deal with him, Yiling naturally protected her well and helped her pass the first stage. Now that was over, it meant he would get his 105,000 Federation points, which was no small sum for Yiling. Xian'er, who had been in a good mood, immediately stiffened upon hearing this. Heartless jerk, she cursed silently, glaring at Yiling. At this moment, Yiling was only thinking about Federation points, completely oblivious to the mood. Don't worry, I've never gone back on my word. I'll give them to you tomorrow. Xian'er snorted, flipping her hair as she turned to leave. She didn't want to stay any longer, fearing she might pass the first stage only to die of anger because of Yiling. Out of sight, out of mind. Then Xian'er pressed the emergency teleport on her wristband and vanished. Watching Xian'er disappear, Yiling's face showed a hint of helplessness. Women indeed changed their minds faster than turning pages. As the saying goes, don't try to guess a woman's thoughts, because you'll never guess what they're thinking. Turning back, Yiling looked at the secret realm behind him with some reluctance. If time allowed, he wanted to stay here longer. He could have gotten more materials and leveled up once more if he had had a little more time. Unfortunately, once the assessment time was up, everyone inside had to leave the secret realm quickly. Oh, what a pity, Yiling sighed, shaking his head regretfully. He then pressed the emergency teleport on his wristband. A passage suddenly appeared before him, and Yiling entered it. After a short walk, a bright light appeared at the end of the passage. When Yiling left the passage, he had already returned to the plaza. By now, many students had already returned from the secret realm to the plaza. They had experienced life and death situations and couldn't wait to leave the secret realm. Compared to Yiling, most of the students were in tattered clothes. Many not only had torn clothes but also bore wounds, some serious ones still bleeding. This secret realm assessment was far more challenging than it appeared. Although Yiling found it relatively easy, for most students, the difficulty was immense. If they were not cautious when facing the monsters in the secret realm, even former top students in classes could be eliminated. Take Lu Wu, for example. Although not ranked among the top geniuses in the entire grade, he was at least in the upper tier. With some luck, he should have been able to pass the assessment. Unfortunately, Lu Wu's luck was terrible, and he was eliminated in a very sorry state. Of course, among the students who seemed battered, there were also some lucky ones. Their strength may not have been great, but they were fortunate not to face powerful monsters. Thus, they escaped danger and successfully passed the first stage. However, such students were rare. Most of the students remaining now were those with above-average strength. There were very few with below-average abilities. Those with low strength had no chance against even low-level monsters. Therefore, weaker students basically couldn't escape the fate of elimination. The first stage tested not only strength but also a variety of abilities, including wilderness survival and crisis response. Just then, the screen in the plaza suddenly displayed the data for this assessment. First stage assessment data. Passed, 82 people. Eliminated, 403 people. Deaths, 75 people. When everyone saw these numbers, they fell silent. The elimination rate was incredibly high, with over 400 people eliminated. This didn't even include the 75 who had died. Only 82 people managed to pass the assessment. One can imagine how difficult this assessment must have been. Chapter 77. The Gap Between People. For these 82 people, entering the Spirit Master Academy was now almost a certainty. The only question was which tier of academy they would qualify for. Those who were eliminated could only lose their chance to become Spirit Masters. As for those who died, the Federation would provide some compensation to their families. This world was just that cruel. Aspiring to become a Spirit Master meant potentially paying with one's life. Even after becoming one, it didn't guarantee a worry-free existence. Being a Spirit Master meant more opportunities to encounter magical beasts. The rates of death and injury remained high. However, compared to ordinary people, Spirit Masters held a much higher status in the Federation, with correspondingly better benefits. This highly sought-after profession attracted many eager candidates. Every year's assessment had a certain death rate, without exception. This year was no different. At this moment, Yiling suddenly remembered Qinji, his only friend in class. With only about 80 people left, it wasn't difficult to find someone. As his gaze swept across the crowd, Yiling's eyes finally settled on a person with tattered clothes and messy hair. He recognized the outfit as the one Qinji had worn when entering the secret realm. Yiling had thought Qinji might not pass the first stage of the assessment. To his surprise, Qinji had made it through. As a friend, Yiling was naturally happy for him. He walked over slowly and patted Qinji on the shoulder. "Hey, old Qin, looks like your luck wasn't bad. Congratulations on passing the first stage." Hearing the voice behind him, the disheveled Qinji turned around and immediately saw the immaculate Yiling. He looked Yiling up and down in disbelief. "Wow, I can't believe you don't have a scratch on you. You must have run fast," Qinji said, initially surprised, then smiling. He had given his all this time, barely escaping in order to complete the first stage. A powerful magical beast pursued him just before the end. He had been running for his life, and if not for the favorable terrain, he might have ended up as the beast's meal. Fortunately, at the last moment, when the assessment ended, Qinji heard that he had passed and immediately activated the emergency teleportation device. As soon as the portal appeared, he dashed through it. Fortunately, Qinji would not have survived if the magical beast from the hidden realm had been able to cross the portal. It was undoubtedly his luck in the end that he passed this assessment. He would have had to give up if it had continued even a little bit longer. Qinji looked at Yiling in front of him, patted his shoulder, and comforted him. "Yiling, it's okay. Being eliminated isn't a big deal. You can always live as an ordinary person in the future." In Qinji's eyes, Yiling's pristine appearance didn't look like he had been through any battles. It seemed that he must have been eliminated early on. This assumption made sense to Qinji. After all, it was the only explanation for Yiling's escape from the secret realm. Not even the top geniuses at the school dared hope they would escape unscathed. And Yiling, whose abilities were considered the weakest in the class, how could he possibly complete the challenge without injury? What are you talking about? I did not get eliminated. I passed the first stage of the assessment. Don't believe me? See for yourself, Yiling said, holding out his wristband for Qinji to see. The wristband displayed 4 characters. Assessment passed. That was not something that could be faked. When Qinji saw the characters on the wristband, his pupils widened. His eyes widened. An expression of disbelief spread across his face. How was this possible? He never imagined Yiling could pass the first stage of the assessment. That secret realm was full of magical beasts, yet Yiling had somehow passed the first stage without a scratch. This completely confused Qinji. What was going on? His brain seemed to have short-circuited, almost losing the ability to think. Qinji had never imagined that Yiling could have passed the first stage. It wasn't that Qinji didn't want Yiling to pass, but he was shocked by Yiling's pristine appearance. Could the gap between people be this large? Yiling, who should have been at the bottom of the class, had passed the assessment so easily. Yiling Yu. Qinji, having regained his senses, was about to say something. Chapter 78. Burning Gazes. Shang Lingkong, who had been on the stage, suddenly stood up. His stern and piercing eyes swept over the disheveled students below as he spoke loudly. Congratulations on passing the first stage of the assessment. You may now return to rest and prepare well for tomorrow's second stage. The second stage will determine which Spirit Master Academy will take an interest in you. His gaze passed over all the students, lingering on Yiling for a full 3 seconds before moving on. As for the representatives of the 4 major Spirit Master Academies sitting at the back, their eyes focused on Yiling, their gazes noticeably intense. These blatant stares made it clear that Yiling was their target. Naturally, Yiling noticed the attention from those on the stage. He wasn't surprised at all. This was to be expected. If the strength he had displayed during the first stage of the assessment hadn't satisfied these representatives, that would have been truly bizarre. Reaching level 2 of spirit chains alone was enough to gain their favor. Actively revealing part of his strength was precisely what Yiling wanted. Only this way could he catch the eye of these top-tier Spirit Master Academy representatives. This would optimize his potential benefits even after the second assessment stage. Yiling wasn't content with ordinary recruitment conditions. If he wanted to become stronger, he needed better terms. The more powerful he appeared, the better the conditions they would offer. Strength was the key to opening doors. Shang Lingkong delivered a few more inspiring words before announcing the dismissal. I hope you'll achieve even better results tomorrow. Dismissed. Although these students had passed the assessment, most of them were still injured and needed prompt treatment. People like Yiling, who were unscathed, were extremely rare. Even Li Xingtian, the current top-ranked genius from one of the 3 first-class families of Radiant City, had sustained minor injuries. This was already the best-case scenario. Looking at Yiling, few would believe he had passed the first stage of the assessment. Li Xingtian, a first-order level 8 genius in the school, was currently the top-ranked student. He was calm and collected, unlike the arrogant Lu Wu. Despite being ranked first in his grade, Li Xingtian never prided himself on it. To him, it was only natural. With his excellent family background and the family support, he would be a waste if he couldn't become powerful. When he passed the first stage of the assessment, Li Xingtian only sustained minor injuries. He had been lucky, not encountering any group-dwelling magical beasts. At night, he would find places to hide, avoiding nocturnal creatures. Li Xingtian understood clearly that even as the top student in his grade, he wouldn't be able to escape if surrounded by lots of magical beasts in the secret realm. His strong self-awareness helped him pass this stage of the assessment smoothly. But now he noticed that the city lords and the top-tier Spirit Master Academy representatives' gazes seemed fixed on one individual. The perceptive Li Xingtian immediately realized who they were looking at. A clean student entered his field of vision. This person must have passed the evaluation in order to be acknowledged by so many influential people. Li Xingtian could guess that Yiling had successfully passed. However, his flawless appearance indicated that he had either avoided any problems in the secret world or had dealt with them amicably. Although Li Xingtian hoped it was the former, that wouldn't have impressed these influential figures. It had to be the latter. This person handled all problems with ease. Upon reaching this conclusion, Li Xingtian's first reaction was disbelief. To be noticed by so many influential figures with them seemingly competing for Yiling, indicated that Yiling must possess formidable strength. Even Li Xingtian, ranked first, had received such treatment. Li Xingtian found it hard to accept that an unknown student would be receiving such attention. Reviewing the ranking of geniuses in the school, Li Xingtian knew most of them, but there was no Yiling among them. Now he had suddenly appeared like a dark horse, catching everyone off guard. His strength was at least not below Li Shengtian's and possibly even surpassed it. Chapter 79. Still confident. Among the people Li Shengtian knew, at most one or two could match his strength. In addition, he knew these individuals, while Yiling was unknown to him. Li Shengtian wondered how Yiling had become so powerful. It was well known that there were no shortcuts on the path to becoming a strong spirit master. To grow stronger, one had to constantly battle, spend a large number of Federation points, and purchase appropriate materials or rare treasures. In the Federation, there were indeed ordinary individuals who became powerful spirit masters, but such cases were rare. These people usually possessed extraordinary talents and uniquely powerful spirit pets. However, Li Xingtian had never heard of anyone in the school having an especially rare spirit pet. The best quality spirit pets were those belonging to aristocratic students like himself. So why had Yiling suddenly risen to prominence? And why was he suddenly receiving attention from so many important figures? Confusion and curiosity flooded Li Shengtian's mind. Li Shengtian felt that his spotlight had been taken, but he was not upset about it. The first stage of the assessment didn't prove much. Only the second stage would truly demonstrate one's strength. The second stage would involve one-on-one battles. Li Shengtian had extreme confidence in his abilities. Even against the equally powerful Xian'er, he believed he had a good chance of winning. As for Yiling, Li Shengtian didn't think he would lose to him. "We'll see who's stronger tomorrow," Li Shengtian thought, a confident smile on his face. He seemed sure of his victory in the upcoming battles. After being dismissed, the students didn't immediately return home to rest. Instead, they had to gather and report back to their respective classes for a head count of those who had passed the first stage of the assessment. Yiling and Qinji returned to their class. As expected, only 5 people in this lowest-ranking class passed the exam, including Yiling and Qinji. The other 3 were of average ability, but had been lucky. They had stuck together, barely surviving for 3 days by using every method possible to hide from powerful magical beasts. When they learned they had passed the test, they were overjoyed. With only 5 people from the entire class passing, one can imagine how brutal the assessment had been. Even the former top student, Lu Wu, had been severely injured and eliminated. After confirming that 5 students from his class had passed the assessment, the homeroom teacher was visibly shocked. He had expected only 2 or 3 to pass at most, and undoubtedly not these particular students. The 3 he had considered most likely to pass, including Lu Wu, had all failed. The homeroom teacher's face displayed a satisfied smile as he looked at the 5 students in front of him. At least 5 from his class had passed, far exceeding his expectations. Although these 5 weren't particularly strong, especially Yiling, who had been last in the class, passing the first stage meant they were destined to become spirit masters. Even admission to the lowest-ranked Spirit Master Academy would be a good outcome, in the teacher's honest opinion. This was understandable. Everyone present, including Qinji, believed that Yiling had passed the first stage purely by luck. There were always a few fortunate individuals who could easily overcome difficulties, something they couldn't help but envy. Yiling was well aware of what the homeroom teacher was thinking, but he didn't bother to explain. There was no need to. His next goal was to aim for a top-tier Spirit Master Academy, so there was no point in arguing with the school's homeroom teacher. It would be a waste of time, and even if he did explain, others might not believe him. Who would believe the words of a former last-place student? Even his good friend Qinji probably wouldn't believe such an incredible story. "Well, since you 5 have passed the first stage of the assessment, I'd like to wish you good luck in the second stage," the homeroom teacher said to the students before him. "Don't put too much pressure on yourselves. You've already got 1 foot in the door to becoming spirit masters. I hope you'll all succeed in your future studies." Chapter 80. Anger and Resentment. In truth, he hadn't held high expectations for Yiling and the other 4. Given their abilities, getting into a low-level Spirit Master Academy was already quite an achievement. He hadn't dared hope that his students would enter a high-level or even top-tier academy. The gap was simply too wide, the possibility too remote. Only slightly more than half of the class had returned. The rest had perished. The homeroom teacher's expression grew solemn as he recalled his former students. Every year, a batch of students would move on, but every year, some would be buried forever. The thought always saddened him. Taking a deep breath, the homeroom teacher composed himself. "Well, that's all I have to say. I wish you success. Goodbye." With these words and a brief congratulation, he left. Of the remaining 5, 3 were eager to celebrate. After all, they passed the assessment's first stage thanks to their ability to work as a team. Only Yiling and Qinji were left. Yiling planned to go home and sell the materials he didn't need online. There's always a market for materials, and they could fetch a good price in Federation points. "Old Qin, go to the infirmary and get your wounds treated. I'm heading back now. See you tomorrow," Yiling said before hurrying off. Watching Yiling's retreating figure, Qinji opened his mouth as if to say something, but yet remained silent. He was very curious about how Yiling had passed the first stage of the assessment. Everyone probably wondered the same thing. However, the others were too caught up in their joy to pay attention to this detail. "Oh, why think so much? It's a good thing he passed," Qinji thought, shaking his head to clear his mind of unnecessary thoughts. As a good friend, he was genuinely happy for Yiling. At least now, Yiling could become a spirit master. Perhaps they might even end up at the same school in the future. With these thoughts, Qinji headed to the infirmary. He had several injuries that, while not life-threatening, needed prompt attention. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Lu Wu, who had fainted earlier due to anger and injuries, finally regained consciousness. His brow furrowed as he opened his eyes and stared up at the white ceiling. He tried to recall what had happened before he passed out. When he remembered what he had seen on the big screen after leaving the secret realm, Lu Wu suddenly sat up, his face contorted with rage, his hands gripping the blanket tightly. His heart was filled with resentment and anger. He hadn't passed the first stage of the assessment, which meant he had lost his chance to enter a Spirit Master Academy and would soon lose his current status. Even Yiling, the class's lowest-ranked student, had passed the first stage, while he had failed. Moreover, how had Yiling, who was supposed to be the weakest, suddenly become so powerful? Could it be that the seemingly talentless Yiling had some hidden ability? Lu Wu still vividly remembered the scene before he fainted. Yiling had used a level 2 spirit chain, an ability only second-order spirit masters should possess. This made Lu Wu suspect that Yiling had some extraordinary talent. As for Yiling's spirit pet, Lu Wu knew it was just a zombie, nothing special. What concerned him most was how Yiling could use a level 2 spirit chain. This was no small matter. It was unprecedented. Lu Wu had always looked down on Yiling, especially after learning about his zombie spirit pet, and had often given him a hard time. Now, the person he had always despised possessed such strong abilities, and Lu Wu was incredibly jealous. His jealousy consumed him. Why did Yiling have such talent? Why couldn't he be the one with this gift? But it was all futile now. He had lost his chance to join a Spirit Master Academy and would lose his family's support. This might be as far as he could go in life. No, I can't accept this. I refuse to lose to a worthless person. I won't accept it. Lu Wu growled, gripping the bed rails tightly. His eyes, filled with murderous intent, looked like those of a demon from hell, sending chills down one's spine. Creak. The rails twisted under his grip, unable to withstand the pressure.